Welcome to another episode of Get Real. Got our favorite guest on today, Commissioner Steve Champion, Hernando County. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on. And there has been a lot going on. So we've got a lot to unpack today. Steve, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Great to have you on here again, as promised. And so you really do help us to give information to the citizens of Hernando County periodically. And honestly, and we'll get to this later, you're the only one who does that, really. Well, I take that back. Ryan Amsler has come on too, and I'm sure he would come on again if we ask him. But we'll get to that a little later. Right now, I want to go over a few things that we're coming up on right now is with the county budget. We have the constitutionals, we have the other departments, and this is all happening now, and it's going to come down to some votes in September. But tell me a little bit what's going on with that. What's the update and the status of what's happening with that?
Well, first off, Tom, I want to say that I really appreciate our governor and our new CFO, Blaise Ngolia, for going after trying to not only reduce property taxes, but potentially eliminate them. Because I really believe this is totally unconstitutional to hold someone's residence as hostage, something they've worked hard their whole life, and they paid taxes on the money to buy their house, and now they're stuck with an average of a $5,500 tax bill in Hernando County. I just believe it's totally unacceptable. Now, if we can't eliminate all the taxes, we should be drastically reducing them, which brings us to our budget. And our budget, and I've been saying this for, you know this, I've been in office 9 years now, and 8 of the 9 years, every single year, in the last 6, we've reduced the millage rate, but it's not enough. We have, because there's been so much value increase, we haven't deducted the taxes enough, and I've been a minority consistently, for several years. But the update for our taxes this coming year is that we just committed, and I led the charge on us, an 11-hour meeting to roll back the tax rate, which means the exact amount we spent in 2025 will be budgeted for 2026. So that's a start. There's no increase at all going to happen unless it happens on the school board side, which we can't control.
And of course, that's a lot to, again, unpack because you work in this industry. I mean, you are in county government. This is what you do daily, and you understand the ins and outs of everything. But a lot of our viewers do not understand that, and whether homeowners or not. Can you give them a little bit of breakdown of how this millage rate works, the taxes, the school board, your end of it? Give us a little breakdown for that.
Well, first off, how the whole tax bill is structured. There's about 55% or so that goes to the school board. And then the other half is the general fund millage, which is, county government. It's constitutionals, the sheriff, the jail, all of that stuff, debt payments, capital improvements, etc. And there's other revenue that comes from sales tax and things like that. But just for the sake of taxes, we'll talk about that. But then there's also non-ad valorem, which is the fire department and the dump and a few other things that are on there, and they all add up to this chunk that comes that's taxed on your property. And how they come up with how much they tax you is this millage rate. So this millage rate, which on the general fund side, which is only a portion of it, is in the 6s. We've lowered it. We pulled it back to the low 6s now. But so let's say we use that as an example. Let's say we use 6 as an example, just for math's sake. For every $1,000 you're assessed, you pay $6 in taxes. Now, you got to remember about 55% is the school board, and then you got non-ad valorem. So let's say on every $1,000, it's more like $14 or $15 you pay. Now, your homestead and your exemptions would come off in the beginning. So let's say at 25 or 50 that come off and your house is 200. Well, you're going to pay, and you're assessed on 200, then you would pay 150 times 14. You do the math on that, under $3,000, something like that, right? But that's not the case with most people. Businesses and if you just bought your home, etc., you pay the full amount. It jumps all the way up to the assessed value, and then if you do the homestead, that'll pull off. But just for argument's sake, if you had a brand new house with somebody who didn't have a homestead, or it was a investment house or whatever, and it was valued at $300, our average tax bill is almost $5,500 on a $300,000 assessed house. So that is absolutely unacceptable, and that's what I've been preaching the whole time. That is almost $500 a month in taxes, even if you owned your house outright. And then you add $200 or $300 for insurance. If you owned your house outright, it would be $800 a month. You're starting off $800 in the hole without even paying your mortgage.
And you know what, Steve? And I did a little research recently, and that I found out that Hernando County is among the 10th highest taxes in Florida.
Yes, I posted that. There was and and who knows if it's totally accurate, but I know that the number, because they showed a $300,000 house at 54, 55, and I know that's a correct number. And the other 9 counties ahead of us are all liberal counties. I mean, we're a red conservative county, and when you compare that same report and you look at Citrus County and Sumter, they're much lower on the scale. Out of 67 counties, Sumter's like 60 something, and Citrus is like 50 something. So you know for us to be 10th highest is unacceptable again. Now, granted, when I talked to the administrator and other people, they said, "Oh, that's flawed information." I said, "All I know is that top line number is correct." So how they rank them, it's not a scientific kind of study that I know of that's backed up, but it is on the internet. It must be accurate, right?
But you know what, Steve? Just going back to, let's say you're even the 15th. It doesn't matter, right? It's got to be somewhere close. You're only one of 2 votes, and we have a newer commissioner, right? And we have Ryan Amsler. We have you, and then does that say something about 3 of the commissioners who is that why these taxes are so high? I mean, what's going on here? Is that why you have no way to bring them down? What's going on?
Well, I can tell you that what happened the last 6 years, because we've lowered the millage. This will be the 6th year in a row that we lowered the millage. But the thing is some of the other commissioners will tout that. They'll say, well, we lowered the millage 6 years in a row. Well, we didn't lower it enough, because in that amount of time, property values have doubled or tripled. So if your house is worth 100 and now it's worth 300, but we only rolled the millage back 20%, well, that's not helping you. Your taxes are still going up. You know what I mean? So because it's based on the value, but just take a step further. I did a report, and I got public information from my budget team, and they sent me from 2016 to 2025 on the big departments: sheriff, jail, BOCC departments, animal services. So those are the 4 that I looked at. And the BOCC, the general fund, encompasses everything. So, and it was over 100% for all of them except for the jail. The jail was at like 90, 80 something, and then it had some almost double. It was 90 something, but it was almost double. When you backed out the revenue, it was still 60% up. But those are still astronomical numbers. Sheriff was 107 up. The BOCC was like 140% up. Those numbers are unacceptable when you only had a 12 to 16%, population increase, which, by the way, when you have a population increase, the taxes should be going down, because you have you have more people. And if you've got a concentrated area, you should be able to be more productive. So even if you calculate the increase in population, it should be cheaper, but it's not. The same thing with the fire fee. The fire tax is another one that we were talking about, and it went from when I got in 2016, it was $158. Now, granted, it had some issues, and it was almost bankrupt or whatever. We had to make some decisions, but it went from 158, and this year it will be 359, and they're asking for it to go to 450 by 2030. That's triple per house. And in this case, on the non-ad valorem for fire, everybody pays. There's no exemption. Everyone pays. So since we're adding so many homes and they're concentrated together, the price should be less, not more.
So that's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was going to ask you. So do you think this is? You think it's equivalent to what it should have been, or were we behind, or are we saying we're inflating this based on inflated property values, which now, from what I understand, are coming down, and the real estate market is kind of leveled off? What do you think?
Well, I think we let government get out of control. That's what happened. And and it's not just us. It's the entire state of Florida. Our governor knows this, right? Because just this last month is the first time that I've ever heard of that Florida had less people coming here and more people leaving. Probably because of taxes. And I think our governor is smart. I think he realizes that. That's why he's working on it, because it is no longer affordable to live in Florida. Not even close. So that's something, especially since this is my hometown and I'm from Hernando, 5 generations here, that there is no need for us to be this inflated. Now, granted, we've got to have basic safety. We've got to have law enforcement. We've got to have some EMS and fire. And EMS is more important than fire, if you ask me. But I get it. I mean, if you have a fire, it could cause damage. I mean, saving lives is the most important thing, So granted, there's a need for that, and that's definitely one of our number one jobs. But then the infrastructure and some of the roads and stuff. But then, it's complicated. But The bottom line is the government cannot do everything for you. They're never going to be satisfied either. They will keep asking for more and more and more. And just like New York, some of these places in New York and these other big cities, it's not uncommon for everyone's tax bill to be over $10,000 a year. We're heading towards that. There's houses here in this county that are $15,000, $18,000 in taxes. Granted, they're bigger houses, but are they really getting service for that much money? I mean, are they really being served? And I would argue that those houses probably get no service. But as a society, of course, we got to do what's right to keep law and order. I get that, but it's gone way too far.
Well, I know there's another issue, and of course, we're going to kind of move into some other subjects. We got a lot to talk about, but I wanted to ask you about the MSTU, right? So we know that the fire rescue is on an MSTU, and the sheriff's office is not. Now, we know that...
they're on a BU. They're
a BU.
And the sheriff. Yeah. But anyway,
MSBU. My apologies. Okay. So, and basically what's the difference between that and what is the problem? Because we keep seeing, and I know you've been an opponent to this, not an opponent to funding law enforcement, but an opponent to not analyzing what it's for. What is the money for? What are the increases for? Can we see what's going on? What are you spending it on? And I know that this year, again, we're looking at about a 10% increase in budget for the sheriff's office. Tell us your opinion on that.
Well, my opinion is that we shouldn't be raising it at 10%. I mean, but then we only hear what the sheriff has to say, and he's misleading us. He's been misleading us the whole time. And by the way, I just want to remind you that he was appointed by Charlie Crist. He was never really elected. And we haven't had a fair election in the sheriff's office since 1984. 1984 is the last time we had a fair election with the sheriff. 2028, we're gonna have people running for office. Trust that. And we're gonna make sure that we get a good sheriff. But the bottom line is that he doesn't want to disclose anything. So our Doge team has asked him for stuff. He refused. I personally, through the county office, asked for, I want 2024's complete expenditure by month for the sheriff's office. I didn't ask for anything current. I didn't want to impede on any investigation or anything. I want to see where they're spending the money, how they're using their P cards. Are they actually spending the money on deputies, or are they spending it on other stuff? Like for example, the flock cameras, right? Word is that these things cost like $10,000 plus each. There's hundreds of them in the county, and I'm going, where did you get all the money to do this? When our citizens don't want them anyway. They don't want spy cameras all over the place. So who told you to do that? And why are you spending the money on that? Well, he refuses to give me this information. Our lawyers say that I can force him to. I can sue him and force him because he has to give it to me, but he refuses. He goes, he stalls, and I get a response back saying, we're participating in a Doge effort from the state level. I go, you know better. You know this is not state level when a county commissioner is asking you for this stuff. He's hiding something. He's not going to give it to me. And now that's the bottom line is. So my answer is you get nothing. You get zero. I'm not voting for any more increases until you give them to me. Now, granted, I'll be only one or two that'll vote against them. The other three will rubber stamp it, and they'll give them the 10% probably. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. They shocked me when they actually voted with me on the rollback. So I think they're feeling the pressure from the people is what's happened.
Well, like you said, we'll see because historically they have been just voting against you on almost everything, unless it's just common sense. But I mean, even this is common sense. I mean, come on. They just keep giving. This is year after year. This particular sheriff comes in, says, give me this. I want another increase. But like you said, you can until Doge came along. And again, nothing's going to happen. I've made requests. Doge has made requests. You know what they told the Doge committee? They said, Sheriff Nienhuis said, instead of giving them the information, come on in and let me take you on a tour of the facility. What does that do? What does that do to help convince the voter, the constituents in this county or in Hernando County that the money is being spent right? And that's unfair. There's no transparency. There's nothing happening here that the people really want. And then that leads us to another question. Look.
Well, I think we're in quick, Tom. I mean, here's the thing that people need to understand, right? He can say whatever he wants. An elected official, a constitutional officer like a sheriff, he comes in with his total budget. He has to present the whole budget. We can't cut it until we see it. And that's why we got to see it in September. And then he says what he's going to spend it on, but there's no checks. There's nobody checking it. There is nothing. I mean, he puts the stuff on there, but accountants can move money around. We don't know where the money is going. I need to see it. I want to see exactly where it's spent. But why would you not give it to me? Unless you don't want somebody to see something. Because I'm going to share it with the people. They're going to know if I get it, and they know that.
Well,
So that's the bottom line.
why do constitutionals have this exclusive benefit outside of all other government departments to be able to withhold information like that and not divulge how, line by line, what they spent their budget on in the previous year? I don't understand that law.
Well, no, there's no. They have to. He is required to give it to me. He's breaking the law by not giving it to me. He's required to give it to me. He won't. And I don't want the sugar coated, spreadsheet that's online. I want to see the actual expenses, what you charge to a credit card, who you paid, and for what. That's what I want to see. So if it's deputy salaries, fantastic. But like if it was, I'd already have the information.
So, yeah, just moving on to another subject, Deputy David Vincent, the newly elected sheriff, I'm not deputy, Sheriff David Vincent of Citrus County, he made a promise last year to voters. He said, I will bring body cameras to this county immediately. And within 6 months of him taking office, they now have body cameras. Now, we keep getting excuse after excuse after excuse from Sheriff Al Nienhuis here in Hernando County as to why he can't afford it, he doesn't like it, and then he aligns himself with Grady Judd, of Polk County, who also opposes cameras. But there's a big difference between Grady Judd and Sheriff Nienhuis. What do you think?
Well, I applaud Sheriff Vincent up in Citrus County. I actually did a post because I actually saw on YouTube there was actually a few major arrests they had on there. There was a high-speed chase when I don't know if somebody was badly hurt or whatever, and they were very professional. The deputies that were up there in Citrus County, and I posted. I was like, great job to the sheriff because he's got these cameras online now, and now there's more trust. There's trust in law enforcement from the community, and there's trust that the deputies are going to be protected because they're accused of awful things, and we know they don't commit most of those things, right? They're great people. So we've got to protect our deputies, and I've said this before, and I don't want to rehash it all, but it's just more productive if when you have the body camera, the judge knows for sure, the prosecutors know for sure. If there was a problem with the deputy, you can coach them. If there's a citizen lying on the deputy, you can prove it immediately. And not to mention, I've said this before, it's like if my freedom stopped, it should be recorded. So I applaud what he did, but I can tell you for the listeners that are out there, the people stood up and voted that the last sheriff out. Pendergrass or whatever his name is. He was voted out 60-something% to 30-something% because he was doing the same thing that's going on here. He was inflating the budget big time, and he wouldn't do body cameras. Does that sound familiar? It's the same thing that's going on here. And the people are done with it. I tell you that when I put out posts and stuff, nobody's against it. Nobody. So, and how anybody could be against something like that to protect our citizens and our deputies is beyond me. And not to mention, it's so much cheaper than these spy cameras that are going on. But I can tell you why I think the spy cameras are out there. I think the spy cameras are there because it's easy crime to solve. If you got cameras doing all the work for you, which I think is unconstitutional, but they run a tag and it's expired. Now we got low-hanging fruit. We can create a crime. We got this crime of a expired tag. We got maybe the driver had a suspended license, right? But the problem with that is, what if that driver's not driving and you stop a law-abiding citizen with no probable cause? There's a lot of problems, and there's a lot of lawsuits out there, by the way. Lots of lawsuits out there regarding these flock cameras. So, bottom line is here, we know why, because the body cameras are cheap. The flock cameras are very expensive. So why would we go that route?
Mm-hmm. Well, you said something that actually rings true, and that is the low-hanging fruit. And I'll tell you why. What I notice a lot, and again, I'm just going by what I see on the Facebook page, the Sheriff's Office Facebook page, and that is that they like to go out, especially when Sheriff Nienhuis is trying to improve his image, which I know he is. He's had a lot of criticism lately. You see a lot of criticism on his social media pages, especially about body cameras, about the budget, about the flock cameras. And so what he does is he just started a podcast. Okay, I don't know how well it's going to do, but it's absolutely, to me, feels like an attempt to improve his image. That's one thing. But what else does he do? And going back to the low-hanging fruit, we see him posting a lot about these where he goes out to do these sweeps through the neighborhoods to try to find violations by sex offenders. Well, yes, that's awesome. They forgot to register. They had a computer on them or whatever it is. They violated some technicality. Yes, bring these people down. But these, again, like you said, are low-hanging fruit. That's not what we want. People, we want to see what deputies can do on the street bringing down hardcore criminals. How about the gangs? How about the violence going on in Spring Hill? How about the shootings, the drive-bys, the stabbings, the home invasions, the burglaries that we no longer hear about? Why? Because they've encrypted the broadcast system, so we can no longer hear what's going on by radio. We can no longer, there's no body cameras, so we see nothing. They say that dash cams are good enough. Well, I don't agree. And like you said, flock cameras. The flock cameras, I think, and like you believe, is an invasion of people's privacies. It is just an easy way. And what is the biggest thing that can come out of this, even bigger than locally? The federal government has access to all that data whenever they want to.
The government's it's just too much tracking of everything. And to me, and they'll say that some people will criticize and say, well, you have no expectation of privacy in public. Okay, but this is different. These cameras are actually tracking your movement. It's different. It's not like a camera that's just recording just in case something happens. It's actually sending data, and then they can retrieve data. So they can take a Steve Champion's plate, type it in, and find out exactly what's going on. Where I really have a problem with is if you look on Flock's website, they advertise that they share this information. They advertise that they can do it for HOAs and all the other stuff. Now they'll say that you need a warrant, all this other stuff. Come on, you know better. I watch enough shows and everything else. It's too much government, And then what do you, and of course they're gonna prey on. Well, what if we found one kidnapped kid? What if we stopped one murder? And granted, do I want kids kidnapped or anybody murdered or anything, any terrific crime? No, absolutely not. But you cannot, for any reason, infringe on someone's constitutional rights, period. And, and I'm adamant about that. I'd rather criminals get away than infringe on their rights. And, I believe there was a saying, and I don't have it off the top of my head, that Benjamin Franklin said back in the day, and I can get that quote to you later, but you can pull that up, and you can't trade your freedom for any kind of security. You can't do that. It was along those lines. But I should have that ready, but if I was going to say something like that. But
That's all right, but I know what you're talking about. Well, you know what? And there's one last mention about this, too. I think there might be a way for these to be debated legally and possibly removed. And I don't know if they've been brought to your attention about this, but they are on county easement. Isn't there and you don't have enough votes, and I'm sure you won't get them. But, I mean, that is an argument, right? I mean,
already made a motion to remove them, and Ryan seconded it. They wouldn't vote on it. And they say they hide behind the three other commissioners. They hide behind, well, the sheriff's elected. Well, no, we control the money. And the public needs to understand that. Back to budgets a little bit on that you have 5 county commissioners to really control your money and to control the laws. The sheriff doesn't make laws. We make local laws. We make regulations. We control the money. That's why you want professional people that are frugal with your money, right? So, and I think people lose sight of that. They go, well, the sheriff. No, the sheriff just doesn't get what he wants. He has to justify it, and we say yay or nay. And what I told the other commissioners is sometimes you got to tell your kids no. Sorry, you're not getting it. You're not getting it, and and that's what it boils down to. But he doesn't want to be told no. And that's the bottom line. He doesn't want to be told no, and it's about time someone does. And you know what? I think Donald Trump is just doing such a fantastic job in the country because he's telling them all, like, look, I control the money in the federal government. I control these things. And the branches, I mean, we could do the same thing here in Hernando County. We could force them to remove those cameras right now. On the next meeting, we could do it. But
with the right votes.
But they won't even entertain it. So.
Yeah. So there's one element that I think we have here in Hernando County, and that is you've faced this for the entire time you've been a commissioner, and that is that you have 3 commissioners who are just like a squad. I mean, you have Alaco, Campbell, and Hawkins who are they just vote the same way no matter what every time. Now, I know you've had some luck recently in the last commission meeting where you all 5-0 votes. But historically, that's been an issue. Now, I tell you what, I try to be fair, and I've always tried to be objective, but I can't seem to get that side of the fence to come on my show or to do interviews. I asked Chairman Hawkins recently. I said, "Hey, would you like to come on the show?" I met him at a charity event. I said, "Hey, listen, I just want you to come on and tell your side of the story. What's going on?" And he agreed in public. But then when it came down to it, and I contacted by email, he said, "Well, you'll have to sign the legal document that promises you won't twist my words." So, I mean, have you ever had to ask me that? No one has ever asked me that to sign some legal document. That speaks volumes. What do you think?
That sounds ridiculous. If you're going to have an interview and you're going to display all of his words right out of his mouth, what is he trying to protect himself from? I mean, you've never twisted any mind. You're just going to play what I said. I mean, it's pretty simple to me. I don't know. I mean, I get it. You could have an error. You've been fair with me, though. I don't think you've been unfair. I don't think you've been unfair with them. I think they should talk to you. I think the sheriff should talk to you. I think the commissioners should tell you. I mean, maybe there's another side that that people are gonna see when they talk to him. I doubt it, because I tell you, I'm getting feedback and it is very little negative. I mean, it's mostly positive. And the people are done. And that's why you've seen the uproar with the taxes. We're done with this. We're done with the government stealing from us. And that's what they're doing. And I'm here to make sure it doesn't happen anymore. As much as I can do. But like that last meeting, it was 11 hours because I was fighting for hours. And I beat it down and the public backs me and they're feeling the pressure. That's why they had to cave in. It's not because they wanted to. They caved in because they had to.
Well, and I think they've gotten comfortable because no one really comes to the meetings, right? They just don't show up. They don't get involved, but they complain later. And I'm not just blaming the community. I know they got things to do, but that is part of the problem. If you can't come back after a vote and you can't come back after an election and say, that was not what I wanted. Well, you should have been there to argue with them, because I'll tell you what, if they got more pressure in these meetings, and I'm sure they would probably be mostly on your side, you'd probably have some higher voting in your favor, as far as, well, the community's favor. But it's just, now you have a movement going on. You've kind of started a movement. You're not going to support these incumbents, are you?
We'll wait to see. I haven't made any endorsements or anything yet, but I'm working with some people. There's some new candidates that I like in there. We'll see how they're going to do. That could be coming up later, but they're, I applaud anyone that steps up and tries to run for public office. It's hard. And, a lot of people, even my friends that watch what I do, they go, "Oh, it doesn't matter what, I can't see how you can do that." And the unfortunate thing is, good people, even when I've tried to recruit good people, nobody wants to put their life on the line to do this. So, and to get back to your point about the people not showing up at the meeting, it's really not their job. They don't have to show up at the meeting. You know what? They need to put good people in there. They elected me and they said, "Steve, we want you to make decisions for us. Make the right one." So when I ran, and I even said this to Commissioner Hawkins just a couple months ago, I said, "Do you want me to bring the flyers you sent to everybody's house with your face all on it?" They said, "No new taxes." And I said, "You're voting in a new tax right now." And he goes, "Oh, Mr. Champion, I know what I said." I said, "Well, I'm just reminding you, I got every one of them right here. I can bring them in if you want to see them." Now, what you promised the public. But I can tell you that I promised the public, and I'm doing exactly what I said I was going to do. That's all I can tell you. And you know what? And they put me back in the record numbers. You know what I mean? So I got to believe that the people want the right thing. You're going to see a different turnout in this election in 26, I believe, because number one, nobody's on my election. There's nobody on the ballot on the primary other than local people. So we only had 22% turnout, right? But this time there's going to be 2 governor candidates at least on the primary. So when you have that, they're going to show up for the governor, and hopefully they show up for the commissioner. So I hope we have a 40 or 50% turnout at least on the next election, and it will change some things, I hope. But anyway, the point is that when they elect commissioners, they expect us to do the right thing. The public shouldn't have to babysit us. And if they do, then they need to get out and vote and get the right people in.
That's right. That's right. And I think you're right. It's going to be it's going to be a different election primary this time, because you have the governor candidates on there. So that is going to make a difference in the turnout, I hope. And maybe that'll make a difference in this county commission turnout. So we'll see. But I want to move through a few things real quick, because we're running out of time. But I want to ask you real quick about the animal shelter. Now, I've done some quick investigating into some recent numbers, comparisons to when James Terry used to run it through the county used to run it. And it seems like things are going downhill a little bit. And I'm not saying they're a disaster, but I've gotten a lot of complaints from people across the community who do not like the way things are being run now. What are your thoughts on
Well, I
that?
mean, I've heard some things. I haven't been down there to go through any of the details of what they're doing. I hear they're not taking any surrenders, which, it's a mixed bag. I think when you take on an animal, it's your responsibility to do it. But if you don't take surrenders, which means that the owner voluntarily gives up their animal for whatever reason, maybe it's violent, maybe it's whatever. And you're gonna have to verify this because I don't know for sure, but that's what I hear. And what happens with that? When that happens, they just turn them loose in the street, and we don't want that either. You know. The other thing, they're asking for a whole lot of money, which we already cut some of it when we just rolled back the rate. There was like 400,000 here, 100,000 there. I mean, there's all kinds of money being spent. And my question is, when we had a decorated law enforcement officer that was retired running it, that ran 6 years in a row as a no-kill shelter, like, we couldn't give him any money. We didn't give him any resources. But yet, right when the sheriff takes it over, the whole piggy bank's open. And most of our listeners, I'm a dog lover. I got 2 dogs, animal lover. I mean, listen, I want to do the right thing for these animals, right? And they're innocent in this whole thing. But we got to stop behavior. We got to look at licensing and these puppy mills and other stuff. There's a lot of things we could do, but there's not unlimited funds either. So from a funding perspective, I think it's kind of hypocritical what's going on now. Yeah. The other stuff I don't really know.
And you're right. And so, yeah. Well, and we already know that the entire fiasco for that whole year when they were trying to, we just know it was a plot to get rid of James Terry. We know that, and it's selfish, and that's my opinion, and that's I'm allowed to have my opinion, but I'm just telling you that it just appeared to be all about getting rid of James Terry. They just wanted the sheriff to take that over so he could shove it in his face. And that's the way it felt like to me. And I think a lot of the community saw that too, except for a few people out there. But I want to move on to something else real quick. I want to move on to some national stuff because I want to get your opinion. I know you are pretty involved in national politics as well. I mean, you have some opinions. I think one of the worst things I've seen in a long time is the beating of that man and that woman, especially that woman who was completely knocked out in Cincinnati, and the way that the local government responded, which was with nothing, but that was just a horrific beatdown. And what is it? What's going on here? Is this racism? Is this because, and I'll tell you this too, I think, just to kind of preface it a little bit more, Democrat politics thrives on division. And we know that what has been a big problem in the division between, the blacks and whites over decades. And unfortunately, I think they thrive on it. That's how they get elected. So what are your thoughts on that? And why is that what's going on here?
Well, yes, and yes, and more. The Democrat Party is anti-American, and they're pro-criminal, which is crazy. I just don't even understand their logic. Let everybody in the country. Don't vet anybody. Let's have no cash bail. Let's slap people on the wrist and let them right back on the street. And then we got culture issues. Those areas and those cities have culture issues. When I watched that video, I was so infuriated. And I let my kids watch it, and my daughters were disturbed. But they need to see it. They need to see what's going on out there because I don't want them to ever be a victim. So I'm looking at this, and there's hundreds of people. There was like 9 people kicking the man in the face while he's on the ground. There's a grown man beating up a woman and knocks her out. Obviously and I saw the interviews, there's a racial component about this, obviously. And if the roles were reversed, what would be said? And here's the difference between a conservative and a Democrat. If I was there, I am not standing by. I'm calling 911 and I'm doing something about it. And they're lucky they're not dead. They're lucky they're not dead because in Ohio, you can defend and you could kill somebody over a forcible felony. If that was happening in front of me, I would have shot every one of them. Seriously, because you got to defend life. That was attempted murder. They were trying to kill that guy. They kicked him in the face 57 times while he's on the ground. It's unacceptable. And then the responses to the city council and stuff about they deserved a beatdown and this is a brawl. They were calling it a brawl. That was a riot, mugging. I don't know what you call that. It was crazy. It was so disturbing.
Well, you could hear the cheering. the cheering going on as if this was just a fun activity for the evening. I mean, it
And
was like it was
it doesn't
disgusting.
matter what color they were. If there was a black person getting beat up and I was there, I would step in. It doesn't matter what color they are. And then, I mean, those are animals that do that. I mean, no one should be. The people cheering on should be prosecuted, in my opinion. I don't think you can do that. I don't think there's any laws against that. But still, it's like who raised these people? I mean, that's another human being that you're beating down. And there's lots of examples like that everywhere. And I tell you that I put a post out and I tagged JD Vance in it. I said, "This is your home state. Do something about it. Do something about it, because that's unacceptable. You got to remove that mayor. You got to go in there and federalize the police and remove that police chief. That's what you do." And those officers that showed up. Do you know that woman that got knocked out and beat had to take an Uber to the hospital? The cops didn't even help her. Didn't even call the ambulance on her to help her. She has a concussion and a brain bleed, and they sent her on her way like she was just in a fight or something. I didn't know that you could beat up somebody and not take anybody to jail, at first.
Well, you can in a blue city. You can in a blue city and in a blue state.
Why would anybody live there? And I tell you, if they elect that communist, socialist in New York, we're going to see an influx in Florida probably. I mean, that could be good for business. Maybe the people with money will leave. Leave all the other garbage there and see. But I mean, put parties aside. That should never happen to another human being. Right? That's not a civilized society.
I want to reiterate though, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea about what we're saying here. Okay, the fact is, and you can even ask one of our favorite candidates, Marvin Bainham, who is a black man, and he's a conservative, he's a Republican, and he's running for commission. You can ask him, what did the Democrat Party do? And what have they done for the black community? Nothing. They've sown division, they've sown hatred, and this is what you see in cities like Cincinnati. You'll see that in Manhattan, you'll see this in LA, you'll see this in Chicago. You'll see this in the highest murder-rated cities in the country. And the racism is there, but it's in the opposite direction, but it's been sown by the Democrat Party because the black communities, and this is generation after generation, have been told that white people are the enemy. We're the enemy, and we're holding them back, and we're mistreating them, and it is not true. And so we know that's not. We know. But
what's really refreshing is that Donald Trump his message is resonating in the black community, and that's why we're seeing over 30% of black men voted Republican. Now, granted, that's not a big number yet. It's getting bigger though, and I'm really inspired by someone like Marvin Bainham that comes and he crossed over and he left. He's a Trump Republican. That's inspiring to me, and I like it because we have a better message. We're about law and order. We're about treating people right. We're about treating people fairly. We're about, and you look at what Trump's doing for even entry-level employees and stuff. He's really looking out for the people, and these are tough decisions he's making, and I think you're going to see a shift. I think you're not going to see a Democrat elected anywhere around here anytime soon. I think you're going to see 12 years minimum of Republican presidents. There's no way you can vote that crazy side in anymore. So,
As long as they continue their whole rants about if their whole campaigns are about hating Trump and hating MAGA and hating conservatives, that'll never work. It's not going to work anymore. I think people got their senses about them now. But I want to end this on a positive note, kind of a funny note. You know who Sydney Sweeney is, right?
That's a great ad.
She is she's a really hot actress, right? That did the ad for American Eagle. And boy, did that blow the heads off liberals. I mean, they just instantly thought this was eugenics and promoting eugenics and that she's a racist. Well, we found out she's a Republican. She's a gun-toting Republican. So, I mean, that has got to piss them all off, man. What do you think about that?
When that video when she was shooting a gun, I thought she was a lot hotter. But listen, I mean, it's no secret that when you're trying to sell something to somebody, you want to have the right model that would look good in the product you're selling. I mean, what's wrong with that? And what the liberals have not talked about, and there's videos out there, Beyonce did almost the exact same commercial for Levi's. And Beyonce was hot in the video, in the commercial too. You didn't hear us screaming about that. Like, what is that? Like, I don't understand how that's a problem. Like, if you're a beautiful girl now, you got to apologize for doing a jeans commercial. To me,
Right.
it's
Right.
asinine. It's crazy. I mean, that just shows you how crazy they are. I
Well,
mean, there's something wrong with them. You
it,
know,
yeah, there is. And again, they try to shift this. This goes all the way back to like the Obama election, when he was president. And this is where they try to shift all of entertainment into these wacky ideas, but especially like you said with, attractive models are bad, right? Attractive blonde hair, blue eyed models are racist, and it's a bad thing to put on television because we should have unattractive people promoting products. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Listen, I love all people. I don't care what you look like, but you can't. Yeah, you're talking about marketing. Marketing is it's a different animal, and you're not going to sell something with someone who's less attractive to someone that you could have on there. Yeah, you can call me a pig if you want. I don't care. That is just the fact of marketing, and you can't change that.
Sense if you think about it. I mean, look at their stock price. They've doubled their value since they put their ad out. They're getting all this free press out there, and now, shoot, I've never bought American Eagle jeans. Do they make men's jeans? I might have to look. I don't know. But that's what the whole point is, right? When you try to market your business, you're trying to make it attractive for, is it realistic? Are any of the women we know, I mean, my woman's beautiful, my kids are beautiful, but still, I mean, are most women going to look like that? Maybe not. I mean, maybe it's unrealistic. I don't know. But still, what's wrong with that? I don't see what's wrong with that. I don't know. We lost our minds. We lost our minds as a country if you think that's bad. I mean, it's.
Well, and you're 100% right, and I'm right. We're right about this. We're still going to get hounded about it because, it doesn't matter. There's going to be people that hate what we're saying, but the fact is that it's true. But, Steve, that's all we got time for today. And once again, like I said, you're always welcome to come back. I know you do, and you come back and give us more information, updates on what's going on in the county and what's going on around the world. And I just wish some of the others would do the same, but they just don't accept the invite.
If you don't mind, a message for your audience, if they ever need anything, they can reach out to me on my email, or they can on Facebook or Instagram. I'll get back with them. And a lot of people do. I see them out in the public and that, and they do watch these videos. I mean, you're getting a lot of watchers now watching these things, and I tell you, I'll be happy to explain my point of view, and I'd be happy to debate someone if they have a different point of view. I have no problem with that. If they see something different. A few people said, "Hey, will we need more officers?" Well, I could argue that too. I could say that we could put a lot more, officers on the street, but in the right place. I mean, we need to put them where the crime is. So I mean, there's always an argument, but the fact is, can we afford it? And that's really the bottom line. You got to weigh that. You got to weigh what can we afford, and then what services can we give, and we got to have somewhere in the middle there that we got to land on.
That's right. That's right. Let's end this with. I just want to say this because you brought up the law enforcement again. Steve Champion is not anti-law enforcement. He's 100% behind law enforcement. He's 100% behind the sheriff's office in Hernando County. So let's not let that get out of control, and let's not let them twist your words as they'd like to say.
And Tom, I told you this last time, but I'm seriously considering running for 2028 against them, unless something changes.
That's right.
I prefer someone else do it. I mean, but yet again, no one really wants to run. For anything. Because, I mean, do you blame them? What we go through? I mean, it's kind of nuts. But I tell you, if it doesn't change, I'm doing it. And we'll see what happens.
Yes. Yep. And I'll tell you, Steve is a man behind his word, and he will keep it. But, Steve, that's all we got time for. Great to have you on again, and we will see you next time on Get Real.